The news tonight out of Texas, it's just a gut punch. That's the only way you can say it. 95 people have been killed. 95 people, a lot of them kids, in that horrific flooding in Texas. It's the kind of news that makes your stomach hurt, that grips your heart when you think about the children, the parents, the daughters and the sons swept away when the Guadalupe River surged 26 feet in about an hour 4 nights ago. You can see just how quickly the water rises in this time lapse here. And more rain is on the way, making it hard for the hundreds of rescuers who have descended on this area. It's a popular spot for people looking to have a good time on a holiday weekend. You want to go camping, fishing, etc. But then this happened. Imagine that, but in the dark of night. Dozens of people are believed to be missing right now. You're seeing some of them here, including 10 little girls and a camp counselor who were at Camp Mystic, according to officials. That camp is now grieving the loss of 27 people in all, including its owner, who died trying to save some of the girls. Also among the victims there, Renee, Eloise, and Lila, who all shared a cabin together. Other victims include people like Tanya Berwick, who was on her way to work as she frantically called her family to tell them about the flooding. They say that's the last time they heard from her. Julian Ryan's fiancé says he slashed his arm open, punching out a window to help save his family as the water was rising. They made it out, but he did not. Those are the stories of some of these people, some of these victims. And everybody here, everybody who died, they all have a story, cut short by the deadliest flood in this country in decades. One of the deadliest natural disasters, period. More people killed than Hurricane Sandy or the Paradise Camp Fire. The scale is catastrophic. And tonight, we're also hearing more about the stunning stories of survival. Like this woman, you see her clinging to a tree there. She was swept miles down the river. Here's the moment she was rescued. You can hear applause from people watching. 2 brothers also made it out of this camp, which eventually got washed away by floodwaters. We're going to show it to you here. Here's how they said those scary moments unfolded.
When we woke up, we had to just jump out of the window as fast as we could. And by the time we jumped out, the water outside the cabin was about up to my waist. And then we had to basically get to the hill as fast as we could.
They ran as fast as they could to higher ground. Another survivor who swam to safety is going to join us in just a couple of minutes. But I want to start with team coverage on our Aaron Gilchrist, who is in Kerrville. Aaron, here we are. It is Monday night now. There is still hundreds of rescuers out there looking for any sign of life. Can you give us an update on how things are looking on the ground?
I would say those rescuers really are resolute right now. There is still so much work left for them to do. The amount of debris and destruction that we've been able to see here, this tree obviously cut off here. We don't know where the other part of this tree is. We found this piece of metal, maybe a piece of a shed wrapped around that tree. You look off in the distance and all you see over and over again in this park, it was a lush park, trees that have been knocked over. The bark has been stripped off. You see off in the distance those crews on the bridge with the heavy equipment doing some of the removal work. Well, they've been there all day long, hours and hours on end, and that is the reality up and down the Guadalupe River tonight. There are teams of people who've been working to clear debris, teams of people who've been working to search for the people who are still missing, even though here in Kerr County, they don't have a hard number on how many people are missing. You alluded to the fact that the death toll has risen. We know here in Kerr County, they've recovered 75 bodies. In other counties around the area, in total 6 of them where they've been able to get some numbers of people who are deceased at this point, that number reaching 95 this evening. There are people here who are hopeful that survivors may still be found because those teams are still out on the water, still out in the riverbanks, in the debris fields, trying to find people. But people are also grappling with the reality of the fact that this was such a catastrophic flooding event on Friday morning, combined with the fact that it has now been 4 days since that happened. I want you to hear from a couple that we spoke to a little bit earlier today. They were here in the park that they normally visit, where they said they would typically find really nice canopies, tree canopies, that they could walk through during the day. And instead today they found this, but they're also thinking about the people who are impacted by this flood. Listen.
Because you know what happened, and the people who are suffering because of it. It's just such a tragedy, and it's still not over.
And so over and over again, as we've talked to people who've been here, as other members of our team, Hallie, have talked to people around this region, not just here in Kerr County, they are really saddened, obviously, by what happened here, but they are heartened, I think, by the fact that people have stepped up and shown their love and support for the first responders who are doing the work and for those families that are devastated by the losses they've had to endure.
You know, I'm struck by what Kathleen, the woman you just interviewed, said, which is that it is still not over, because she's right. It is so far from over, Aaron. There is one factor. I don't see it raining behind you. The concern, right, had been that if there was more rain, we knew that thunderstorms were sweeping in. That was going to make things even more difficult. It raises the risk of the potential for more flash flooding. Where do things stand on that front tonight?
There is still a flood watch in effect for portions of the south central Texas area. There have been rain showers. We've seen flash flood warnings and watches north of where we are in Kerrville. So there are places where they have seen rain today. Fortunately here, that has not been the case, and that has helped with some of the effort to get through some of the debris fields that are along the river, along this stretch of the river, in and around Kerrville. But there is still, as we said, a lot of work to be done. The part of the effort that we're hearing right now is trying to figure out how this happens, how so many people were not able to get away from those rising floodwaters. We know the National Weather Service has said that it put out alerts. It put out alerts, it put out outlooks, it put out advisories, warnings, watches, all the different things that we would get from the National Weather Service and other agencies that are connected to the Weather Service throughout the day on Thursday into the nighttime hours. That first big warning came at about 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday. That was that first flood warning that went out that would have caused people's cell phones to really blare, that loud sound that you hear. Maybe if you hear an Amber Alert, that's what people would have heard around that time if their phones were operational. Folks who were staying along the river in areas perhaps where they didn't have good cell phone service, or people maybe would have turned off that feature on their cell phones. They may not have gotten those alerts on their phones. But those are all things, Hallie, that I think are going to be a part of the after action on this. People trying to review what happened here, what worked, what didn't work, what needs to be done better next time to save more lives.
What do they still need there, Aaron? We've seen a lot of calls for donations. We've also seen some of the emergency response officials saying, hey, volunteers can't just be showing up. Like, at this point, it is a highly coordinated local, state, and federal response here, a massive, massive operation.
You're absolutely right. We know that, obviously, the state and the localities have deployed their professional teams of searchers into the field here to try to do the work that needs to be done. At the same time, we've heard Louisiana, for example, Virginia, for example, sending swiftwater rescue and urban search and rescue teams in to help with the effort, as there's a need for a rotation once you get into days and days of search efforts like this. There are people, obviously, as you said, who are volunteering as well. They've been asked to reach out to the local emergency managers, to the Salvation Army that's helping with some of the coordination, so that they can be put out in teams of people in ways that are safe. This is still a dangerous area, obviously, with so much debris, and wanting to make sure that when people go into certain areas, they're doing it as safely as possible, Hallie.
Aaron Gilchrist, live for us there in Kerrville. Aaron, thank you so much. You have heard by now of Camp Mystic. That is one of those camps along the banks of the Guadalupe River that was just devastated. Some of it washed away entirely when the river crested its banks so intensely. It's nearly 100 years old. It's a staple in the state of Texas and beyond, with literally generations of girls, multiple generations, sometimes from the same family, spending summers there, experiencing the same thing that their mothers, that their grandmothers did. It is a place that is now in the midst of horrific grief and trauma, with 27 people from that camp, according to Camp Mystic, believed to be dead. NBC's Priscilla Thompson has more.
Torn up bunks, scattered stuffed animals, muddy clothes and towels. The harrowing images showing how deadly floods in Texas turned the magic of summer camp into a heartbreaking tragedy. This photo showing a broken Camp Mystic sign at the entrance to a building that no longer exists. Videos giving a glimpse of the evacuations, where rescuers helped save more than 700 children caught in the storm.
They didn't really have time to grab any shoes. Some of them were wearing one Croc, maybe none. So just being as kind as I could, just carrying them over to the Blackhawks. two in an arm or something, like whatever it was to get them to safety.
Mystic says it's now grieving the loss of 27 campers and counselors, like 9-year-old Jamie Hunt, a first-time camper, and 18-year-old camp counselor Chloe Childress, who was described as wise beyond her years. The camp's director, Dick Eastland, died trying to save his campers. His grandson saying in a social media post, if he wasn't going to die of natural causes, this was the only other way, saving the girls that he so loved and cared for. Those sentiments echoed by Today Show's Jenna Bush Hager.
That family, the Eastland family, is Texas royalty. They raised so many girls. So many of my friends said he was their summer father. He looked out for his campers. He raised girls to be brave.
Her mother and former First Lady Laura Bush also once worked as a drama counselor at Mystic. The Christian camp was a summer home for girls in many prominent families, like former President Lyndon B. Johnson. And at least 2 congressmen also had family evacuated from the camp over the weekend.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
Some of Camp Mystic's traditions go back almost 100 years.
Nothing has changed. Like, the Eastlands have done everything they can to keep it looking the same between 1926 and when we were growing up there in the 2000s.
The camp has faced adversity before, transforming into an Army rehab and recovery center during World War II. But for most of its history, a treasured haven for young girls.
It's just us together in nature and playing basketball and riding horses and doing dances together and just honestly being little girls all together.
Those camp activities now feel like a distant memory to traumatized survivors.
It didn't look like Camp Mystic anymore.
13-year-old Stella Thompson was beginning her 6th summer at the camp when the storms broke out.
How horrible it is to see it like this, because that's not Camp Mystic.
The camp saying in a statement on its website, our hearts are broken alongside our families that are enduring this unimaginable tragedy. We are praying for them constantly. Those prayers resounding across the nation, with the county sheriff saying the search continues for 10 campers and a counselor still missing, while a community tries to piece itself back together. Priscilla Thompson, NBC News.
I want to bring in Bill Karins now. You look at something like that and you have such a heavy heart. And it's worth noting, too, it's not just this camp, the other camps along the river. This was a recreational spot, Bill, right? I mean, it's a holiday weekend. You got people camping in RVs. You have people out there spending the night for a couple of nights with their families in cabins, separate from these camps, adults, other families, et cetera. I know that one of the things you've been looking into, because, this is an area that's prone to flooding, although this is incredibly, extraordinarily
87,
rare.
95.
That's exactly right. The comms piece of it, when you're out there, when you're out camping, right? If you're in an RV, help us understand some of that, because I know this is something that you've been digging into.
Yeah, and I'm a science communicator. I mean, my job, is to alert people of what's happening and try to save as many lives or property or give you information. And that's what all meteorologists are doing, and that's what all emergency managers are always doing. We're trying to give you the best information possible. So we know that the information came out. At 1 a.m. in the morning, a flood warning was given to anywhere on the Guadalupe River, including Camp Mystic, which you just saw there. I went today and I dug into the FEMA flood maps. If you live near a river or you're in the FEMA flood zone, you know it. You pay extra insurance. It's not a surprise. About 75% approximately of Camp Mystic is in the flood FEMA map zone. So they know that they were in the flood zone. So at 1 a.m. in the morning, when that flood warning went out, and they have bunks along the river or not far from it that are in the flood zone, those kids should have been taken out of those bunks and brought to a higher ground, which is where they do have some cabins. That's where people were rescued. The water did not swallow the entire camp. But for some reason, the failure of communication to get that warning at 1 a.m. in the morning to move those kids to safety did not happen. And I'm sure that we're going to find those answers out. And I'm sure those parents, after they get done with this horrific grieving process, are going to want to know why did the camp not get that messaging? Somehow was the cell service. Did they not have good cell service? If they didn't have the good cell service, the NOAA weather radios, did they have those? Because those are like fire alarms in your house, and those would wake you up, and then you'd know to go tell everyone, get to higher ground. So that was at 1 a.m., and then if for some reason that didn't happen, at 4:45 a.m., that's when the flood emergency was issued, and that alarm also should have went off, Hallie. So I think that's the biggest question. For all those people in the RVs, the tents, all the adults, everyone else, they're kind of on their own. It's their responsibility to get the alerts either from a weather radio or on their phones. And if they don't have cell service, then they have to have a weather radio. But for the parents that drop their kids off, who's the responsibility of the camp, it's their responsibility to get those kids to safety in those situations. And obviously that didn't happen.
As we're looking at the massive operation there that we were talking about with Aaron a couple of minutes ago, are they out of the woods as it relates to more rain in the forecast, Bill? Like, in other words, are they going to be able to continue this recovery operation in effect without the risk of more, water coming down?
Yeah, the flood watch went up today, and the Weather Prediction Service actually put him in a moderate risk of flash flooding, which got everyone's attention, which was like, oh, here we go again. And there was about 4 to 6 inches of rain earlier today, just outside of Killeen, Texas. These thunderstorms have been propagating and weakening. Here's Kerrville here, and then the Guadalupe River travels this direction. All the storms have missed that. It has not impacted at all. The flood watch does wrap up at about 7 p.m. today, and the forecast for the rest of the week is totally clear. But we do still have some flash flood warnings where these storms were north of Rock Springs, south of San Angelo. I haven't heard anything horrific out of these, Hallie. These will be over with shortly, given another probably 30 minutes or so.
Bill Karins, thank you very much. First responders say they're not giving up hope, not yet, with this huge operation, this massive search happening now into the night for anybody who may still, after 4 days, be alive. Realistically, they know, they've indicated that hope may be fading here, but they are working round the clock after one of the deadliest floods the country has seen in decades. I want to bring in somebody who experienced this for herself. Riata Schoepf was staying at a nearby hotel right along the banks of the Guadalupe. She's joining us now. Riata, thank you so much for being with us. First of all, we are so glad that you are okay. Can you tell us a little bit, in your own words, what happened early Friday morning?
So Friday morning, our whole facility we were staying at got knocks on their door, just telling everybody to get out. There was no rain until a little after 12 that night. We had just been hanging out. I mean, the kids were swimming and everything like that. And that morning around 2:33, everybody was leaving. We walked outside and the water was up to the bottom floor doors. And it was insane. It just came out of nowhere. And we all started running to our cars. Everybody was trying to leave. And the only 2 exits are through low water crossings and by bridge. And we were all at a standstill on the road, and everybody's trying to go the same place, and nobody can go anywhere because both exits are blocked. We had just been sitting in the car, and then you start seeing all the water rising slowly, and then it started getting faster and faster until it was up at our cars. And you just see people fleeing their cars and walking down the road. And then you're like, oh, I guess we better do that too, because at this point, there's nowhere else for us to go. And we just started walking down the street. And as you're walking, you're just getting the water rising higher and higher. And you looking somewhere for higher to go. I mean, all the houses there are 1 story, and there was only a few that were 2-story that we could see. And the one house that we did find, there were people in the 2nd story with flashlights on. And as we were walking by, once the water was up close to our chests, they were screaming for us to come up because the current was just pulling more and more people in. They let down sheets for us, and we started climbing up, pulling people and tons of dogs. We had a great community there to help us, and there were some very significant people that got us through that time.
So that I understand, Riata, you're saying that you said water up to your chest. So you're sort of walking or swimming or struggling through this, and somebody throws down sheets from a 2nd-story window that you're then, with all these people, that you're climbing up?
Yes. So there were definitely at the end point, more than 45, 50 people in one area on that 2nd floor. People needed somewhere to go, and they threw down a sheet for us, and 2 men that are really great in my life, just pushing people up and going out and getting them. And just everybody was looking for somewhere to go. Nobody had any service. Nobody had anything.
Did everybody, all the people you were with from the hotel, all the people that evacuated the hotel, did they all make it to higher ground safely, to your knowledge?
There were a few people that did not make it. Thankfully, nobody in my group, they all made it. But at River End, there were a few families that did not make it out. Some tried going over that bridge and unfortunately did not. And just some people never got the knock on the door loud enough or noticed in time.
Ugh. What time did that knock come, Riata? When were you sleeping when it happened? Were you still awake with your family?
Yes,
and your?
Yeah. So everybody was asleep. I mean, we all went to bed. We were only there for like a few hours and stuff and just hanging out. But it was definitely around like 2:30, 3. So everybody that I knew was asleep. There were a few that had already been awake because the storm was so bad. The lightning and thunder was insanely loud. It was nothing like I've experienced here.
Wow. Your dad posted online that he was getting a couple of messages from you. Like literally as this was happening, it sounds like you're like, I'm swimming through water. I'm not too much. Were you on your phone? Was somebody sending that message for you? How did you manage to communicate in this moment of crisis?
So I had originally sent the message to them around like 4 or 5 a.m., but the message never went through till around 8 a.m. that morning. And I know everybody's celebrating 4th of July, but thankfully the satellite option on your phone now, the message cleared through that. But this is a place where people go to get away and has no service. So everybody there was extremely difficult to reach anything.
Yeah. I wonder, Riata, what your message is. There's so many people around the country and around the world, candidly, who are looking at Kerrville, looking at Texas, praying for the state. They're sending their thoughts there. What is your message to them, to the people who have watched this catastrophe unfold, as somebody who lived through it?
It's definitely like, don't take your life for granted. So many people had it worse. Like, we had probably the best situation and best people around us. So many families, like, walking through that town lost everything, and it's unimaginable for them. Like, it's hard to know exactly like what to do, but anything by just donating, and if you're able to, I know I'm going to help clean up that area, like helping those families, like donating money, anything like you can. I promise you it'll happen anyway.
Yeah. Riata Schoepf, 19 years old, survivor of that Texas flooding. Thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your story. I can't imagine how traumatic that was for you, and so many people are glad that you are doing okay tonight. Thank you for being with us.
Yes, ma'am.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.